Hello, I am Mike Raleigh. I'm the current VISTA leader here with the UAB AmeriCorps VISTA statewide program. And yeah, today I'm going to give you a little overview of what goes on here. And this is a general walkthrough of what I'm going to cover. I'm going to go over some welcome and introductions of our program staff here at UAB. I'm going to talk a little bit about my position as well and how I got to be VISTA leader. And I'm going to go over some of the specifics of working for AmeriCorps VISTA and volunteering with the federal government. I'll highlight a few member testimonials of current members we have serving, and then I will show you our current positions. So in this first section, I'm just going to go over the program staff here at UAB. These next four people work here at the university. They are not employed by the federal government, but they are employed by UAB, and they help manage the UAB AmeriCorps VISTA statewide program and the grant that we have. So here's the current staff as of March 2023. We have Dr. Amy Chatham, who is director of the UAB AmeriCorps VISTA statewide program. She's also an assistant dean in School of Public Health. We have Kiana Boglin, who is the program supervisor here. She serves as the kind of essentially right above me. I can't answer any questions you have, you would go to Kiana. And if you live in the Black Belt, and if you serve in one of those 6 counties or our 2 outlying areas in the Piedmont or in Mobile County, you would contact Kiera Jackson, who is the Black Belt Project Coordinator. And we also have Georgia Ellard, who is the Food Security Program Coordinator. So if you work at one of our FSI sites, such as Blazer Kitchen or Grace Klein, you would contact her for any information that your site supervisor or I could not answer. And this is me. I am the current, as of March 2023, AmeriCorps VISTA leader. And just like all other AmeriCorps programs, my term is a year, and I currently serve with the Office of the Service Learning and Undergraduate Research here at UAB. I work half for the projects that go on in that office, and I also work half of what goes on in the larger UAB statewide program. So, in order to become a VISTA leader, you have to complete a full term with another service organization in the federal government. So, for most people, that is a current, like a year of AmeriCorps program, a traditional ACCC or a state or another VISTA program. And that's what I did. You also can complete a year of any other public service opportunity, like Kiana did FEMA Corps. Both Kiana and Georgia were VISTA leaders with the UAB statewide program before I was. Kiana worked with FEMA Corps, and Georgia worked with the AmeriCorps Texas. So my first position here was outreach coordinator at UAB Wellness Promotion from August 2021 to August of 2022. And did a lot of health education outreach, and my main task was coordinating the outreach activities for the Promoters of Wellness, which is a student group within Wellness Promotion. And I transitioned to this role in August of 2022. And currently, I help support over 60 VISTAs statewide. And typical tasks of a VISTA leader include being a facilitator and educator, recruiter, resource generator, mentor, liaison, and ambassador for a program. I do about all those in a given week. I do a few of them at the same time. I'll facilitate, say, a on-campus community partnership with different nonprofits to come and present projects that they have for the students here at UAB, which is also a time for me to generate resources by approaching those nonprofits and saying, hey, would you like to maybe have a VISTA position within your organization? And I'm always an ambassador for the program. Anytime anybody asks what I do, most of the time people are not familiar with AmeriCorps. They've heard of it but don't know the specifics. And I would say 90% of the time people don't know the specifics behind being an AmeriCorps VISTA. They might have heard of NCCC or state, which are 2 other branches, but most people aren't familiar with VISTA. So it helps to know a lot about just AmeriCorps in general when you're talking about your quote unquote job, which I'll get into later. There are specifics behind legally how we talk about our position and talk about the kind of work we do for the federal government. But there's my information right there in my email if you would like to reach out. I will be completing my term at the beginning of September 2023. So if you have any questions between now and then, please reach out to that email right there, and I can help you answer any questions you might have about just Vista life in general and specific questions about working for AmeriCorps. So here's our mission. We hope to address social issues in Alabama. UAB-AmeriCorps VISTA statewide program places year-long capacity building volunteers in service positions with community agencies to improve lives, strengthen communities, and foster civic engagement. And we also have 10-week summer associate positions available. And those typically run from June until August. And VISTA, which stands for Volunteers in Service to America, developed a complete project specifically designed to address pressing community needs, positively affect the Birmingham metro area and the Black Belt region of Alabama. And if you notice when I was reading that first paragraph, I mentioned capacity building. That is specific to the role of VISTAs. I will go into detail about what that word means in a later slide when I talk about the responsibilities of being an AmeriCorps VISTA. So here's a little history behind the program here at UAB. It started in 2014 with 5 VISTAs in the Office of Service Learning and Undergraduate Research at UAB. And what our statewide program is considered as an intermediary program. So we do not have any VISTAs who serve directly for the program. We have VISTAs who serve at a bunch of different sites all throughout the state of Alabama. And we manage the grant here with the statewide program. So we essentially manage the funding and the ins and outs of those organizations that employ VISTAs or that help the VISTAs serve with. And we currently have 58 VISTAs actively serving in the state. We added 3 this very day. So now that number should be about 61 with a few who rolled off. So it might still be around 58. And we're placed physically in 16 counties, but we serve just about every county in Alabama, all 67. And we have over 120 VISTA alumni just through the UAB-AmeriCorps VISTA statewide program. In any given time, there are about 200,000 AmeriCorps volunteers. That's through all state in CCC and VISTA and AmeriCorps Senior. So our traditional service areas were originally in Jefferson County, and we've expanded throughout the state. And these are the 16 counties that we currently serve. And 6 of those 7 counties are in the Black Belt region of Alabama. This is a region that stretches from where Sumter is all the way down to about Bullock or Barber County. And historically, this area is named for the deep, dark, compact soil that's found in this region. And crops are grown very well. It's very fertile soil. And I have my bachelor's in natural resource management from Auburn, so I could explain the details about, the exact physiography of the region, but that is not why you're here. And the name, it kind of serves for 2 purposes. It is after the soil. There's also a very large proportion, historically and currently, of Black Americans who live in this area. And these rural counties in southern central Alabama, they often have limited access to resources. And the resources that they do have are hard to access because there are a lot of rural communities. There might be one, say, medium-sized city within each county, and all the other towns in that county kind of either have to travel to that city for resources. And we prioritize placing VISTAs in the Black Belt who are from the Black Belt in order to serve their own communities through the identification of specific problems and needs. And this is one of the greatest things I think about the program here at UAB is that we don't send people from Birmingham into these communities and say, hey, here's what y'all need. We actually work with people who grew up in those communities and who have a stake in what's going on in their cities. And who also have a passion for public service. And we help them volunteer for different nonprofits in their own cities and where they grew up. And they know what they need. And they know what can best help the community and the members of their community. And that's one thing that I think is special about the UAB program is that we are not, sending people from the big city out into the country and telling them, here's how it's done. We're actually engaging with the people from that community, and we're supporting the work that they do. We also have a few sites in this. You see the 3 counties up there. That around Calhoun County, we have a few VISTAs working in the Piedmont area. And we also have one VISTA right now in Mobile and working with Prism United. And we have a few VISTAs working with H2 Alabama out in Baldwin County and Foley. So next I'm going to go over some of the basics of working for AmeriCorps and the VISTA program in general. Talk about a few benefits and resources. Also talk about the expectations that come with serving America. And I'll go over the chain of command. This is helpful to know if you have any questions that your site supervisor cannot answer. And then I'll just talk a little bit about, and you'll catch it for me in this presentation about how we're supposed to talk about working, I should say, volunteering for America. And this is more not, this isn't something you need to worry too much about. It's just more if you're kind of cultivating that identity of being a public servant. And it'll make sense when I get to the slide. So I'll start off with some of the benefits that we are entitled to. And one that's most prominent is the living allowance. So technically, we are not employees with a salary. We are volunteers with a living allowance. And so VISTAs receive monthly living allowance as of March 2023. That's about $13.50 a month. That's before taxes. And we do not get state taxes taken out of our living allowance, but we do get federal taxes taken out. And it's deposited on a biweekly schedule, so every 2 weeks. And so, yes, this is not our salary. This is our living allowance. It is readjusted every year around October 1st. So with inflation, our living allowances went up in October of 2022. So every year they readjust those living allowances, and it's based off the county you work in. In Alabama, all 67 counties are paid the same living allowance, but in some states, such as New York or California, if you work in a county like LA County, you're going to get a higher living allowance than if you worked in one of the more rural counties in California. But for the state of Alabama, we get paid the same regardless of what county you live in. And another benefit that most people are familiar with AmeriCorps is the Siegel Education Award, and it's valued at the amount that a Pell Grant is valued at that year. So for 2022, 2023, that education award is $6,495. And it can be used to pay for future education. So it's good for 7 years after you finish your year of service, but it's also used to repay eligible student loans. And to be eligible, they have to be loans that are through the federal government. If you are not sure if your loan is, you can go on the website, AmeriCorps.gov, and they will have a list of eligible loans. And there's also, you can choose between either the education award or an end of service stipend. The end of service stipend is about $1,800. And that's money that's just deposited into your last 2 living allowance statements. And you also have some limited healthcare benefits. This includes the healthcare benefit plan, which is not a full insurance plan, but it is more of like a catastrophic plan. And if you do have insurance, which I highly suggest if you are not on your parents' insurance, that you get on the healthcare marketplace. You have 60 days from the start of your service to do that. And if you do have health insurance, you can sign up for the healthcare allowance. And this is probably, if there's any benefit that I stress, is the healthcare allowance benefit. And they will pay for your copays. They being IMG, International Medical Group, they work with AmeriCorps, and they will pay for your copays and your coinsurance. You get a $200 vision benefit and a $1,000 dental benefit, regardless of if you have vision or dental insurance. This is very helpful. It is one plan that I hear current businesses, they don't take advantage of it as much. So if you happen to start before I am done with my term as VISTA leader, then I will harass you about signing up for the healthcare allowance. They will not pay your premium, so they won't pay that monthly amount that you have to pay for your insurance anyway, but they'll cover just about everything else up to your out-of-pocket maximum, so you have beyond your deductible. If you have children under the age of 13, then you qualify for childcare. I'm not too familiar with that, so that is a question I will pass on to a higher up like Kiana. And during your term, if you currently do have student loans, then you can request that they be deferred during your year of service. And basically, what that means is you don't have to pay on your student loans. And currently, as of March 2023, we haven't had to do that in 3 years, but that will be restarting soon. And also, AmeriCorps will pay for any interest you accrue during your year of service. So it's essentially like, not essentially, you are not having to pay for your loans and you're not accruing interest because AmeriCorps will pay for that once your year of service is up. And there's a relocation travel allowance, which is unique to VISTA. It's different from the other AmeriCorps programs. And if you move 50 miles from where you currently live to serve, so before I moved to Birmingham to work to volunteer with Wellness Promotion, I lived in Auburn, which is more than 50 miles away. So when I moved up here, I received a relocation travel allowance of about $750, and I got mileage reimbursement as well. But again, that's only if you move more than 50 miles from where you currently consider your permanent address. And we also have leave benefits. There's 10 personal days, 10 sick days, and 5 emergency days if you run out of those other 20. And we also have federally recognized holidays that are taken off by your host site. So for UAB, that's just the ones that are recognized by the state government. And we also have access to food assistance. We have Blazer Kitchen here on campus if you're near UAB, and everybody who is in the UAB-AmeriCorps VISTA statewide program will have access to a Blazer ID, which means that you will have access to Blazer Kitchen. And you're possibly eligible for SNAP benefits if you are a current AmeriCorps VISTA. Then your living allowance is under the limit for SNAP or food stamps, so you will be able to get those. I do suggest that if you want to be a VISTA, you apply for stamps before you start service if you know if your current salary is less than the living allowance. That might not make too much sense. If you need more information of that, please email me, but I highly suggest everybody apply for food stamps because it's free money. And also there's a lot of different benefits, like you can get half off of Amazon Prime if you show evidence of food stamps. Just put in your EBT number, and it's very helpful. There's you can order from Whole Foods on Amazon with your EBT card, and some places double the amount. So some farmers markets will actually, you get $10 worth of food and you use your food stamps, they'll count it as $20. So there's lots of hidden benefits from having food stamps. But yes, if you anticipate that the living allowance, the $13.50 a month, is more than what you make now, and you are planning on being a VISTA, please apply for stamps before your first day of service and it's only AmeriCorps VISTA and it's only for food benefits, but they have to count our living allowance as salary. For any other benefits, like through the federal government, like disability, they'll disregard for any public service kind of benefit, they'll disregard the income. But just for VISTA and just for food assistance, they have to count the living allowance as income. And that gets very complicated, like I said. If you have any questions about that, please email me. Here are a couple of resources that are available to us. So already went over the ones with AmeriCorps, the living allowance, $13.50 every month, the education award, the child care and health benefits / allowance, as well as the loan deferment interest forbearance. But since you are working through the UAB-AmeriCorps VISTA statewide program, you do have access to some UAB benefits. If you work on campus or near campus, you have access to remote parking, which I believe is on 14th Street. It's not close, but it is doable. It is walkable. maybe not in the summer or the dead of winter, but if it's relatively nice outside, it's not too far of a walk. And you get a one card, which is, university ID, so you have access to buildings with that. And through UAB, you get mileage reimbursement if you have to make any sort of trip away from your site. All of your to and from home to your site is not eligible for mileage reimbursement. But if you have to go on a work trip or you're constantly driving around Birmingham or driving around the county you live in and work and serve in, then you're eligible for mileage reimbursements for those trips. And they must all start at your site, start and end at your site instead of your home address. And already, whenever Blazer Kitchen, please, please, please sign up for that. And if there's any question that it's just, could be answered relatively quickly, you can shoot me an email. Or if you'd rather call the National Service Hotline, they can answer a little bit more in depth than what I can answer. Sometimes if I can't answer the question, I'll call them and then report back what I said to you, or I'll shoot an email to Kiana, who knows twice as much about what I know about this. She was both a VISTA leader and in her current position. She knows more than I do about that. So I'll send her an email, tag you in it if it's something that stumps me. But for the most part, if it's just a minor question, I might suggest you call the National Service Hotline because, we all have 20 different things going on at once, and it's kind of their job to answer the questions that are, relevant for us as public service of the federal government. So for hours, you must work 35 to 40 hours a week. That's a legal must. So we have a recording process through Encore, which we record our hours, but you must work 35 to 40 hours a week, no more, no less. If you work less, then you have to make it up the next week. If you work more, then you have to flex that time. And traditionally, it's a year-long, 52-week, 365-day commitment. And we do have 10-week summer programs. Those, like I said, run from about May to August or June to August. And flex time, since we are limited to 35 to 40 hours a week, if we don't get any sort of overtime. So if you work 50 hours one week, then to balance it out, you need to work 30 hours the next week, and just make a note that you're flexing your time. But that stuff we'll get into more if you choose to serve with us. That's stuff we'll cover more in depth at orientation. We do have leave and national holidays, like I said. And if you're a summer associate, those will include Memorial Day, Juneteenth, and July 4th. So during the summer, you do get a good number of off days just from national holidays. And again, all your hours are capacity building, not direct service. And I'll explain the difference between those two things in the next slide. So for volunteers in service to America, we are defined with the federal government as carrying out capacity building services for the organizations we serve. And capacity building is working with staff and community to create, expand, strengthen the systems and processes that help an organization carry out its anti-poverty work. And these tasks and activities include the transfer of knowledge and skills, products, and relationships. And direct service is more what you might consider in your head when you think of volunteering. So those are the activities that immediately address the client's needs. And there's a nifty little chart here over on the left that explains the difference between capacity building and direct service. So for capacity building, say if you're volunteering with Habitat for Humanity, if you were a capacity builder for that organization, you would actually get the volunteers who helped build the house. And if you were volunteering directly for Habitat, you would actually build the house. And if you worked for a tutoring agency, you would develop some sort of database of the current mentors and what their proficiencies are and maybe what times they can work. And you might actually create that timesheet, but you wouldn't actually do any of the mentoring yourself. And that would be the role of those volunteering directly for that organization. And there's a few other little examples here. I won't go into detail about all of them, but yes. So essentially when I do like a quick 5-second, what is AmeriCorps VISTA? I basically say, oh, I manage volunteers. It's confusing because it's like, well, aren't you a volunteer too? It's like, yes, but, or yes, and I volunteer for the organization, helping them to manage their volunteers. And just to kind of give you a more broader view of what capacity building can be, here are some of the categories that we have on our that we report to the federal government about some of the activities we do. So, for example, when I do community outreach, where we spend time communicating with different partners by making phone calls or emails or making some sort of site visit and saying like, hey, how can we build capacity for your organization? How can we help you get volunteers? And grant writing is a great example of capacity building. You're not actually out there building the house. You're writing to organizations saying like, hey, can you donate this? Or you're writing a grant that says, hey, we need this amount of money to actually hire the volunteers to build the house or get the material to build the house. And there's resource development. This is kind of fundraising essentially, where you participate in activities to raise funds for the organization. So you're not actually out there collecting the toys, you're developing the process by which you get those. And there's some other more niche ones. And once you're Vista, if you have any questions about like how do I report this on my timesheet, you can email me or Kiana, and we can direct you more to like, hey, how does your activity match capacity building? So direct service is actually a category on here. You are able to work up to 15% of your hours as direct service. So I believe that is about 6 hours a week if you are working 40 hours a week. So 6 hours out of your 40 hours a week can be direct service. So 6 hours of that can be manning the front desk, but it is limited to 15%. There's a little bit more flexibility with certain Vista programs and certain Vista titles if you're an opioid Vista, for example. But that's what I was my first Vista year. So I had a little bit more flexibility with doing direct service, but even then, my primary focus was outreach coordination, not doing the outreach myself. I was the one who assisted the students with setting up their tent and their promotional materials. I wasn't actually out there in the tent, teaching students about substance misuse, sexual health, self-care, all the other things that wellness promotion dealt with. I was the one who was behind the scenes, essentially. A lot of capacity building is behind the scenes work, and it is very fulfilling. It might not seem fulfilling to talk about, and it is kind of complicated, but your first 3 months of service, if you're doing a year-long program, are really built around kind of that identity of like, okay, how do I learn the processes to build capacity? This is the chain of command. This is kind of who you're going to talk to when you have any sort of problem with your service. And most, we would say 90% of your concerns can be solved directly with your supervisor who is at your site. So that is a person who works for the organization you're serving with. And most of the time, any sort of concern can be hashed out with them. If you have any questions about the, you know, AmeriCorps side of things, then you reach out to me or whoever the VISTA leader is at the time that you're watching this or starting your service. And that's like I can help with the 9.99 other percent of stuff that doesn't get solved with the direct supervisor. But if it's something that goes above me and above my pay grade, then I will send you to the project supervisor, and that's Kiana right now. And I would say, you know, at, at most things would, things would be met and the answers would be had from that. If it's something a little bit more serious or it's a question that, stumps me and Kiana, which like let's say is very, very rare, then we would escalate it to Amy, who is the program director. And like I said, that rarely happens. It hasn't happened since I've been here that I've had to send anything that far up the chain. Most of the time, you know, questions that don't get answered by your supervisor come to me and Kiana, and that's where they go. But and in the rare, rare, rare chance that Amy cannot address the situation, then we would take it to our VISTA representative. And that's not happened since I've been here. So we can really handle a lot of stuff in-house. So I'm going to go a little bit about just some, I would say, language around how we talk about the stuff we do here as AmeriCorps VISTA. And this can be confusing. This is just not anything that you need to stress about, but it is nice to know that, how we fit into the grander scheme, what it means to serve America. So we are not employees of CNCS, which that is the Corporation for National Community Service. I probably got that wrong. It's basically just AmeriCorps, but that's some more like longer kind of bureaucratic name for the program. So we're not employees except for very specific purposes. In addition, we are not employees of the sponsoring organization or sub-recipient organizations which you were assigned. So we're not employees of UAB. We're not employees of Coosa Riverkeeper. We're not employees of Grace Klein, Feed BHAM. We have no legal employment relationship with the sponsoring organization or even the sub-recipient organization. So sponsoring would be UAB, sub-recipient it's our various sites all throughout the state. And AmeriCorps retains the sole authority for any individual's selection or admission, replacement, removal, and termination. So your site cannot outright, fire you or terminate you or put you on any sort of leave or even hire you. All that is through AmeriCorps. We just make suggestions. We being, the staff at UAB. I'm not staff at UAB. That it's probably confusing you more. But I'm a VISTA just like everybody else is a VISTA. And then there's a staff at UAB. The staff at UAB cannot hire or fire you. We have to make recommendations to the government, and then the government is the one who hires. Or we report to the government that, hey, this person doesn't want to serve anymore. Can you, terminate their term of service? If you want to read all about the ins and outs of it, here is the official language from I don't even know what it is, but I wrote this down and I should know what it is. But it's essentially the language the government uses. They have it codified and written down here, and it's like how we're actually serve America, like right here it talks about. And they'll go over some of this with your actual AmeriCorps orientation that you do with AmeriCorps themselves. You'll have our orientation with the UAB staff, but you'll actually have virtual member orientation with AmeriCorps, your first day of service. But for example, the Hatch Act, there's limitations to what we as VISTA can do with our role when we're actually, serving the federal government. If you want to Google the Hatch Act, we can't campaign for any sort of elected official or like any sort of just a local election that's associated with a party. There's certain limitations we have on that. And, we are eligible for workers' comp, but there are just certain things, these 5 things that do apply to us. For the most part, we are not considered federal employees. And you can read through this if you want to. You don't have to. You can go and type in this 45 CFR. It's long, it's complicated, but they do a good job at your virtual member orientation, explaining it much better than I will. So this is essentially the language just boiled down to just a simple 1, 2, 3 that helps me at least think about, and I'm sure you've heard throughout this whole presentation, I've said things like I work for AmeriCorps or I work for UAB. It's just shorthand, it's easier. But when you're talking to somebody who you might be recruiting, or if you're talking to an organization that might be interested in having business serve with the organization, you want to use this language. So we volunteer for AmeriCorps and we serve with our sub-site. So I serve with the Office of Service Learning and Undergraduate Research. We serve through the UAB AmeriCorps VISTA statewide program. So it's very complicated. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much. You can just say, I work for AmeriCorps. It is good to keep in mind that you do not work for UAB. You do work for AmeriCorps. So it kind of heightens that identity of we are AmeriCorps VISTA. We are not UAB employees. We're not working for UAB. We're working through the UAB statewide program. So I am going to pull up a few VISTA testimonials and just in their own words tell you about what these excellent people are doing throughout the state, serving with their various organizations. So first off, we have Takai Thread. She works as communications coordinator with Wellness Promotion, which is the opposite I worked in previously. And I was the first VISTA with Wellness Promotion. And after my term of service, director said, be helpful to have another VISTA to do some of the work that maybe I couldn't do, that I wasn't skilled at, such as social media. I'm 30 years old. I'm very good at that. I hate to say it, even though I'm millennial, I'm just never could grasp social media. So here's what TK said about her service. Said, I currently serve as the AmeriCorps VISTA Communication Coordinator with Wellness Promotion. This is my second term as an AmeriCorps VISTA. Previously, I served as Youth Engagement Coordinator over the summer. As a Youth Engagement Coordinator, I organized a youth summer camp, tutored an underserved community, and input research information into a database. I decided to apply for VISTA after I learned about the great work they perform on a nationwide level. Within my roles, I have been privileged to educate individuals on college campuses, resolve food insecurity, create digital media opportunities, participate in health fairs, and several other community outreach projects. Being a VISTA has helped me grow professionally, mentally, and physically. My favorite part of VISTA is the flexibility within each job description. Focus areas of my job include safe alcohol consumption, stress, sleep, self care, smoking prevention, etc. I hope to be the change I want to see in the community. So TK is a good example of a summer associate who then went ahead and did a full term of AmeriCorps VISTA. So there's a lot of our current VISTAs who did serve, say, their 10-week summer associate program. There's a little bit more flexibility within summer associate program as far as direct service goes, but we do have a good number of our VISTAs who did a 10-week summer program and then went ahead and went on to do a full term. So our next highlight is Lucas Allison, and he is a field coordinator for Coosa Riverkeeper, which is in Shelby County. So let me pull up his. I'm doing this all on a second screen, so it takes me a little bit longer to pull this up. So yeah, here we go. Lucas says, I'm an Alabama native, born and raised in Alabaster, and graduated from UAB in 2022 with a BS in Environmental Public Health. I initially joined the VISTA program because it was one of the only logical next steps I had after I graduated. It was a shot at getting a job in a field that I love, and I figured that it would give me a much-needed experience in that field. I could then take that experience anywhere I wanted to go. At the time, I felt that I was fortunate to land a spot at the Coosa Riverkeeper, and in retrospect, I will forever hold this as a truly life-changing moment. I found my passion with this organization, I found my place, I found what I wanted my life to look like. Though my initial plan was to serve for a year and take my newfound experience somewhere else, this plan quickly changed as I fell further and further into my respective organization. Nowadays, I don't see myself leaving anytime soon. For once in my life, I am truly happy with this. I now have a completely different perspective on Alabama, on myself, and how much work we need to do to keep this gem of a state clean and thriving. I have AmeriCorps and, of course, Coosa Riverkeeper to thank for that. Being a VISTA is hard work, and it can be difficult getting used to the life you have to live by participating in the program. But I can tell you firsthand that it has been the most rewarding experience in my life. I can't wait to learn even more, to continue working for a greater purpose, and to truly translate myself into the person I imagined when I was a kid. So yeah, I think right there, Lucas's write-up is kind of an example of how AmeriCorps can really shape your identity and your experience in your field. Because I was the same way, where I was like, oh, I'll just do this year of service just to stick it on a resume and it'll look good. But I liked it so much that I wanted to do a second year, and I liked it so much that I wanted to be VISTA leader. So I can relate a lot to what he was talking about. It's like, oh, I'm just going to get through this kind of term and then see what use this to slap on a resume and then move along. But as you can hear what Lucas just said, it's just you really come into your own with the VISTA experience, and it is always one of those things that we are pretty upfront about. You do not get paid a lot, but there is a reason behind that. And there's an intention behind why we only get paid 5% above the poverty line. It's something that we're clearly transparent about. There are plenty of benefits that can help, but it is not easy, but it is totally worth it, in my opinion. And I'll talk about Marcy. She is one of our vistas in the Black Belt, and she works as a rural health liaison with the sanitation health program here at UAB. And of course, a nice little millennial pause while I scroll for her response. I'm doing this reading on my phone. So Marcy says she has been a resident of Selma, Alabama since 2001, and I am serving as a full-time AmeriCorps VISTA member and under the supervision of Dr. C. Poole, who is the assistant professor for pediatric infectious disease at University of Alabama Children's Hospital, and also serving under Jasmine Kennedy, who is a clinical research coordinator at the University of Alabama at Birmingham for the Department of Pediatrics and Infectious Disease. My VISTA position is rural health liaison, and the goal of my position is to alleviate the burden of poverty and foster environmental justice in Dallas, Marengo, Perry, and Wilcox counties. I am serving as a connector and communicator between personnel and community members to facilitate capacity building for the soil-transmitted helminth infection in at-risk communities in rural Alabama public health promotion project. So our sanitation health program here at UAB helps a lot of counties in the Black Belt with issues regarding field lines that are leaking into the soil in a lot of these communities. So there's not a whole lot of good sanitary infrastructure in a lot of these communities. And what happens is there are septic tanks and there are lines that run from houses out to the septic tank, and a lot of these lines are leaking. And what happens is that can develop into hookworm problems in a lot of these communities. And this is a serious concern that I don't think a lot of people nationwide or even in the state of Alabama are aware of. And so Marcy works to help a lot of these communities get connected with organizations that can help remedy the situation because it is a serious problem. And if you're just have a passing interest in public health, I urge you to research what's going on, especially in Loudoun County. That's my family's from Loudoun County, so I know a lot about it. And they have a huge problem there with faulty field lines and helminth, hookworms in the soil. So yeah, we do a lot of great work in the Black Belt, and the rural health program is one that is just like truly life saving. So if you have more interest in kind of the overall work we've done the past year, we do have our 2022 annual report. I have a little snapshot of some of it. It's gorgeous. I helped do some of the designing, so I think it's pretty because I did a lot of work on it too, as well as the rest of the staff and some other vistas who work with our food security initiative. You can find that here at our site and sites.uab.edu/UAB-AmeriCorps VISTA. We have a lot of information on that site just about our program in general, but you can find our 2022 annual report there. So yeah, so thanks for sticking with me for these past 42 minutes. And as I said, if you have any questions at all, please email me, RaleighM@UAB.edu. It's like Raleigh, North Carolina, or Walter Raleigh, RALEIGHM@UAB.edu. If you are watching this after September 1st, 2023, there will hopefully be a new VIST leader because I will have rolled off and gone on to whatever life holds for me next. But, I did not come in to this program to AmeriCorps thinking like it would be as life changing is kind of cliche, but it's been exceeded my expectations about what I thought I could do. And it's not so much the job opportunity; it's just the whole life and being a Vista and working how we do it and getting how much we're paid and like access to the benefits that we have, and serving the communities and really developing a lot of empathy. And I suggest it to everybody because it is just a year-long commitment. So it's nothing that you have to, sign away your life for, but you will learn a whole lot, not just about whatever field you choose to be in. That's such a small portion, but you'll learn a lot of just about being a human. And so if you have any questions at all, want to set a meetup time and talk about, some of the positions we have or what might be the best fit, please contact me. If you have any higher order stuff, I might send you to one of these lovely people. And if you have any questions that I can't answer, more program departmental questions, and if you want to reach out to any of these people, please feel free. We're all friendly and open and welcome. We love answering questions because, like I said, in Kiana, Kira, and Georgia were all Vistas with UAB AmeriCorps Vista statewide program before they became staff members for UAB. So they've all done service. Like I said, Kiana and Georgia were actually Vista leaders before I was. So not only do we have the information, we also have the experience of being a Vista that we can share with you. This is our last slide. This is a cute little QR code that I made. These are the current positions we have open, and this should stay the same as far as the positions are updated at this QR code. So if you're scanning this 6 months from now, we'll have the most up-to-date information for the current positions. And some associate positions usually drop around the end of March, beginning of April of every year. So be on the lookout for those. And our deadlines are usually 2 weeks before orientation, 2 weeks before the start of service. So keep an eye out for positions as they open. People roll off and those positions will open back up. We have a different assortment and array of positions all throughout the year. So that is about the 45-minute mark. Thank you again for being here and learning about AmeriCorps VISTA. And feel free to reach out at any time. And to anybody that I've shown any emails that are here, just send one on. We love to talk about AmeriCorps. I love to talk about AmeriCorps VISTA. And really hoping that you choose to serve for America. So thank you.